Councillors, I'm about to formally open the meeting. Before we begin, please make sure your microphones and devices are on silent. Also note that should we need to adjourn the meeting, please ensure your microphones are turned off at the time, as the live streaming will continue running. I now request the live streaming of the meeting to commence. Good evening, councillors, officers and community members in attendance tonight. I also welcome any members of the public who are attending online or live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Emily Demetriadis. I'm the Mayor of Darebin Council and the chairperson of tonight's meeting. Tonight, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our last council meeting of the year. On behalf of council, we wanted to wish our community a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. I declare this meeting open at 6:08 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed and a recording will be made available on the council website as soon as possible after the meeting. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Wurrung people, the traditional owners of this land. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture, and I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people here today. Over the past month, we have seen some important milestones towards addressing injustices and supporting self-determination, including a formal apology in Parliament House last week and the commencement of treaty 3 days ago. Together with my fellow councillors, we celebrate these milestones and remain committed to respecting self-determination and taking deliberate action towards truth-telling. I would like to welcome and acknowledge all councillors, our executive leadership team and officers joining us this evening. There are no apologies tonight. Before I move onto the formalities of this meeting, I'd like to pause for a moment and express our deep shock and sorrow at the terrorist attack at Bondi yesterday. Our thoughts are with the victims, their families and friends, and indeed the Jewish community across the country, not least here in Darebin. This display of hatred and terror towards Australia's Jewish community or any part of our community has no place in Australia, and we are heartbroken at this senseless attack of violence. In recognition of this terrible tragedy, I would like to call for a 1 minute silence. Thank you, everyone. Item 4 of the agenda is disclosures of conflicts of interest. If any councillor or relevant staff member has a conflict of interest in relation to a matter on the agenda tonight, they must disclose a conflict of interest and the nature of the conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest must also be declared immediately prior to the item being considered. Councillors and officers, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Nope. If during the course of the meeting any motion or amendment is put to give rise to a conflict of interest, I request the councillor advise me at the time. Item 5, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Councillors, could I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 24th of November 2025? Councillor Boglis, thank you. As the mover, is there a seconder? Councillor Aturi. I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. It's wonderful to see everyone here this evening for our final meeting of the year. I would like to remind everyone that Council has an occupational health and safety responsibility to ensure everyone attending tonight's meeting in person or online feels both safe emotionally and physically. For members of the public who are in attendance tonight, we kindly ask you to be respectful of one another and to maintain a civil tone when addressing the meeting, and remind you that members of the gallery must remain silent at all times during a meeting, unless you're invited to address the meeting. If anyone does engage in conduct that is improperly or disorderly, the chairperson can direct that person to cease their conduct, and the person must comply with that direction. Items 7, public question time. We will now move on to public question time. We have allocated 30 minutes for public question time. If we exceed that time, I will ask councillors for a procedural motion to extend question time for another 30 minutes. In line with Council's governance rules, questions can only be accepted from people in the gallery if the question was submitted to Council by 12 p.m. today. Submitters can ask a maximum of 3 questions and can speak for a total of 2 minutes. Please keep in mind to only ask your questions during this time, and please refrain from making statements. Questions relating to notices of motion, petitions, or urgent business cannot be accepted in accordance with the governance rules. For members of the public who have registered to ask a question in person, I will call your name when it is time. Once I call your name, if you don't respond, I will assume that you are not present in the gallery, and one of our officers will read the question on your behalf. The relevant general manager will then provide a response. For members of the public who are in attendance tonight, in person or virtually, I will invite you to come to the lectern or unmute your microphone, and you can state your name and ask your question. Like questions will be grouped together. The first person who submitted a like question may ask their question. So the first question we have this evening is Mayan Lin, who's not attending today. So I'll ask Anna to read her question.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayan has 3 questions. The first is with reference to my question at the council meeting held in October regarding the control of traffic down the shopping strip at Johnson Street being located in Group C. What exactly is Group C? Question 2, could you please advise why the council will not build a toilet block at Johnson Street, Keon Park Station, where there is a public need while the council has $1 million budget surplus this year? And the third question, could you please advise why this council demolished a toilet block in good working condition at Batman Park and then built a new one at a cost of $120,000?
I'll ask General Manager Vanessa Petrie to answer the question.
Thank you for your questions, Mayanne. Your Street, Your Say is an initiative based on making local streets and neighbourhoods safer, more accessible and enjoyable for everyone in Darebin. The Group C study area includes Northcote West, Preston East and Reservoir East, and that covers Johnson Street. Johnson Street near Arundel Avenue has been identified as a draft priority location, and we're proposing a raised pedestrian crossing there to improve safety. Community engagement will start in early February, and properties located near proposed projects will receive a letter, and council will also promote engagement through communications. Regarding your second question, council currently has no plans to construct a new toilet facility at this location. This decision is based on careful consideration of infrastructure priorities, community needs and available resources. While we acknowledge the importance of public amenities, we also need to balance these requests against broader service delivery and capital works commitments across the municipality. There are several public toilets close to Johnson Street, Keon Park Station, and these include the Donath Skate Park, which is around 510 metres away, the Donath Pavilion and Donath Soccer. And regarding your third question, assets are replaced considering infrastructure priorities, community needs and available resources. This asset was due for renewal and is in demand given its location within a public park.
The next question we have this evening is from Tanya Kay, who's attending virtually. We'll request Anna to respond, as Tanya hasn't attended, isn't attending.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, we have some light questions regarding the flying of the Palestinian flag and Darebin's flag policy, which has been withdrawn from tonight's agenda. As well as Tanya, we've had questions from Louise Cody, Thomas Green and Lily Levine. The question is about the Palestinian flag. Why is the Palestinian flag up, and what does it have to do with the council in its day-to-day running?
And we'll ask Anne Howard, the CEO, to respond.
So I know Tanya's not with us at this meeting, but I want to thank her for her question. It's an important one, and similarly to Louise, Thomas and Lily, who also submitted questions on this matter. As the Mayor's already recognised, everyone at Council is deeply saddened and shocked by the violence that transpired in Bondi yesterday. The Palestinian flag is flying at Preston City Hall following a Council resolution in December 2023, and it needs a further resolution of Council to be lowered. Council had prepared to consider a report tonight, in fact, about a flag policy, but that has actually already been determined to be deferred until sometime in the new year to allow councillors just a little more time because it's an important topic. If adopted, the policy will formalise a framework for managing flags on council's flagpoles, but we want to make sure there is an opportunity to understand the community's views about this, and that's why the matter was taken out of tonight's meeting.
The next question is from Steph Otto, who's not attending this evening. Anna?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Steph has one question in relation to Donatha East Pavilion. What is the money being used for, and how many clubs in the Darebin area have both a men's and women's team?
Nina Cullen. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph, for the question. Through you, Mayor. Of Darebin's soccer clubs, 9 of the 10 soccer clubs have women or girls teams, and 9 of the 10 soccer clubs have men's or boys teams. Thank you.
Question 4 is from submitter Franca Smarelli, who's not attending the meeting. Anna, could you read the question?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Franca has 3 questions. The first is, given the safety concerns at the Cleland Street car park in Reservoir, what plans does Council have to improve lighting throughout the facility, particularly in dimly lit areas? Question 2, will Council also consider installing additional CCTV cameras to enhance security and deter antisocial behaviour, ensuring the car park is safe for all users? And can Council allocate a designated pick-up and drop-off zone within Cleland Street car park specifically for taxis, rideshare services and family members collecting veterans and senior citizens? And the third question is Council committing to investigating the possibilities for timelines and funding to implement these safety and accessibility improvements at the Cleland Street car park to better serve our veteran and senior citizen community members?
Rachel Olivia?
Well, thanks, Mayor. We've had a similar question from Kevin Kennedy, so I'll answer both questions at the same time. Frank, we understand, is representing Hands On Health, who are moving shortly into one of Council's properties, the old Reservoir Police Station, as tenants, which everyone is pleased about. The building that they're moving into was offered on an as-is basis. There aren't plans to change the lighting or the CCTV arrangements at the adjacent car park. There is CCTV that covers part of the car park, and the nearby street lighting, as well as some lighting on the library building itself, provides some light into the car park. The main entrance for that precinct, the Reservoir Community and Learning Centre, is from Edward Street, where there's a taxi zone.
Thank you. Next question is from Jacinta Murray, who's attending in person. Thank you, Jacinta.
When families are accepted to a service for 3-year-old kindergarten, why can they not be guaranteed to also attend 4-year-old kindergarten at the same service, providing continuity of care and prioritising their well-being? The necessity for individual new registrations and no guarantee of acceptance is hurting local families each year and causing stress. 2. Why are families in other parts of Darebin bypassing multiple kindergarten services, some newly built, to attend JS Gray, stopping local families from being able to attend their own local kindergarten? Local zoning would potentially help with this issue. 3, with a forecast deficit of 253 places in West Preston by 2036, will Council be prioritising the upgrading and expansion of JS Gray Kindergarten to create more places and resolve the issue of reduced places when the pre-prep reforms roll out? 2 local kindergartens have closed in recent years, and the kinder and maternal health nurse facilities need urgent upgrades to address this. Thank you.
Nina Cullen, you may be seated. You've got crutches.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jacinta, for the question. We have received like questions also from Megan Foggan and Liana McCurry. I'll answer like questions together in this response. And first up, I'd like to answer question 1 and 2 together. Council recognises the importance of continuity of care in early childhood education and the preference of many families to attend services that are close to home and that they have attended in earlier kindergartens. This is reflected in how Council approaches kindergarten allocations through its central kindergarten and childcare registration system. This service is currently provided to 23 of Darebin's 64 kindergarten and childcare services. Families are allocated places according to priority of access criteria from both the Department of Education's Kindergarten Funding Guide and Council's own local criteria. Department of Education's priority of access criteria must be applied first. They prioritise children at risk of abuse or neglect, including children in out-of-home care, Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander children, asylum seeker and refugee children, children who have an identified specific disability or developmental delay. Council's local priority of access criteria are then applied, prioritising families who are Darebin residents, children whose sibling attended a service within the last 2 years, services closest to the family's address, children who attended a 3-year-old program wishing to attend 4-year-old kindergarten at the same service. Council uses these required criteria in all of its allocation decision making. I'd like to respond to question 3. Expanding kindergarten facilities in response to state government early years reforms is a key initiative of our Darebin Plan 2025 to 2029. To support this work, Council has partnered with the state government to update Darebin's Kindergarten Infrastructure and Services Plan, which forecasts unmet demand across much of the municipality. Council works with state government and the early childhood education and care sector to identify and pursue projects that will increase kindergarten capacity and deliver value to the whole Darebin community. Preston West, which is where JS Gray Kindergarten is situated, is certainly an area of focus for the Department of Education and Council, given it has the highest projected unmet demand in Darebin of 2036, 253 15-hour places. At its meeting on 24 November 2025, Council resolved to write to the Minister to formally acknowledge the projected unmet demand in Preston West and advocate for state government funding to support projects in that area.
Thank you, Nina. Next question is from Megan Foggan, who's attending virtually.
Hi, my question is around the cancelled plans for Edwards Lake, specifically in terms of capacity to create a shared indoor community hub for general purposes, including early childhood centres like JS Gray, who run bush kinder programs and are often looking for community spaces to use. Thanks.
Nina, could you respond?
Thank you. Thank you, Megan, for the question. Council does not have a current plan for the development of early childhood education and care facilities at Edwards Lake. Council is exploring opportunities to expand kindergarten capacity across all of Darebin, including options for bush kinder. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question is from Adrian Zacharias. Is Adrian here today? No? We'll read out his question.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Adrian has 3 questions. The first is, WeCycle's current community program is under threat of not having an appropriate location to operate its program into the future. What is the council doing to support and protect an origination that has deep connections to the inner north cycling corridor? 2, has council considered other locations on arterial bicycle corridors with comparable or higher amounts of bicycle traffic as what is experienced in the current location along St George's Road cycleway? And the 3rd question, has council contacted other councils inside the inner northern cycle corridor like Melbourne City Council or Marybeck City Council to see if they have some more suitable location on or close to a high traffic northern bicycle corridor, specifically on or close to a bicycle way?
Rachel?
Thanks, Mayor. So tonight, Council's considering a report following an expression of interest process where it's put 26 sites out to seek interest from potential tenants. That included one site that WeCycle has been a tenant for. Council will consider that report tonight, and I can't preempt that decision. I can say that, sort of separate to the question of building space, Council's work with WeCycle remains in place and there are no changes proposed. Your second question about other locations, given the decision on the agenda tonight, I'll take that as a suggestion or a comment. And then the third question about contacting other councils, Darebin hasn't specifically contacted other councils on WeCycle's behalf. It's open to WeCycle to do so.
Our next question is from Matthew Zammit, who's attending in person. Thank you, Matthew, for continuing to engage with council.
Thank you. Nice to be here. So my 2 questions arise because less than 12 months ago, the Victorian Legal Services Commissioner made a finding that a lawyer, who I won't name, acting for council, was found to have not met their professional obligations by way of their conduct toward me. That was after a 5-month process of backwards and forwards. I'm not a lawyer.
Mr. Zammit,
Yeah.
According to governance rules, can I kindly request that you ask the questions that you have submitted?
Okay, I will get to well, so the questions are about procurement ultimately, and I know people have stood here before and spoken about procurement of ICT and given that view, and I don't quibble with that. So my questions relate to procurement of legal services by Darebin Council. What are the values of Darebin Council, and are suppliers expected to uphold these? And if a supplier failed to meet their professional obligations as set out by their professional regulatory body, would this automatically disqualify them from providing services to Darebin Council, given the ethical and integrity requirements set out in Darebin Council's social procurement policy and its doing business with council guide, which I have here?
In response to the first question, Carolyn will respond.
Thank you. So the question I'm answering is, what are the organisational values of Darebin Council? So Darebin Council's values centre around making a difference for the community. They emphasise accountability, integrity, respect, collaboration and creativity. And they are detailed in a code of conduct that guides employees when they serve a diverse community.
The second question, if Rachel can respond.
Thank you, Mayor. So the question that's come through to us is very general, and so the answer is also very general. The question is, if a supplier failed to meet their professional obligations as set out by the professional regulatory body, would this automatically disqualify them? And we would need to consider any individual case on a case-by-case basis. The sort of general answer is that when council engages professional services, it requires evidence of appropriate compliance certificates, and these are generally required to be provided annually. All contracts have a duty for suppliers to disclose to council issues that would stop a supplier fully delivering on the contract. And if this occurred, council would use the provisions of the contract to either rectify the issue or terminate the contract.
But values, and certainly what you've got in your very good, I might say I've read them, the policies talk about things above that, and that's the risk and the value
Mr.
come
Zammit,
commensurate with a greater expectation. So
I believe
somebody
you've
might have a
asked
licence to
your
drive
two
a truck, but they
questions.
could drive dangerously, and they might still be
Mr.
able to drive
Zammit.
the truck. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you. I believe you asked your 2 questions that you've submitted.
Yeah, I don't think I got a good answer. Sorry.
Thank you. Next, we have Cameron Meston.
Hello. My questions relate to these transport projects and strategic goals. I have 3 questions. The first one, how is Council planning to rectify the underinvestment in active transport? Number 2, how is Council engaging with state government to improve investment in walking and cycling? And number 3, how will Council meet its target to increase the mode share for people on bikes, pedestrians and public transport by 20 percentage points by 2028? Thank you.
Vanessa?
Thank you for your questions, Cameron, and through you, Mayor. Each year, Council carefully considers priorities for investment across all of its assets and services, including active transport. Council will soon start to consider what to invest in through the 2026-27 financial year. A draft proposal will be open for community feedback through May 26, and I encourage you to have your say. Regarding your second question, officers are engaging with the state government to improve transport and walking and cycling in the following ways. Regular meetings at officer level to advocate for active transport outcomes. And this recently resulted in safer speeds being delivered by the state government along Merry Parade and West Garth Street. Letters are written to the relevant ministers seeking their support in delivering community priorities on state roads. And when grant funding is made available, officers work directly with state government to present projects for funding. Regarding your third question, the strategic goal for increasing the mode share of people riding, walking and using public transport is currently off track, and Council continues to advocate for improved alternative transport modes throughout Darebin.
Serena O'Mealy. She's not attending.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Serena has 2 questions. The first is the member for Preston, Nathan Lambert, has recently stated in the Victorian Parliament that Darebin Council may use its new local laws powers to remove the corroded and unsafe building frame at 1C McCartney Street Reservoir. Will Darebin Council act on this advice and exercise those powers? And the second question, at the council meeting on 22 September 2025, I specifically asked whether council was prepared to take decisive action, including demolishing the site, and was advised that no action would be taken while the site held a current permit. Why was it not made clear at the time that council could, under its new local laws, demolish the structure despite the permit?
Vanessa.
Thank you, Serena, for your questions, and through you, Mayor. Council acknowledges that this partially constructed property has a long history dating back to 2009, when the original building permit was issued for 3 dwellings, of which only 2 were constructed. Between 2020 and 2023, Council has prosecuted the matter in an effort to bring the property into compliance, resulting in a building order being placed on the property. A new building permit was issued on the 31st of July 2025, requiring the removal of the existing structure as a condition. The owner must begin works within 12 months of the permit date. The structure was previously inspected and was not at that time unsafe. Council will make inquiries of the private building surveyor to ensure that the structure does not present an immediate risk to public safety. Authorised officers of Council undertook an inspection of the property on the 12th of December 2025 and was satisfied that the property was compliant with the provisions of the local law. As a subordinate document, the local law only comes into effect when higher legislation is silent on the matter. The demolition of the existing frame is not subject to the provisions of the current local law.
Thank you. And the final question tonight is from John Gorman, who's not attending.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, John has 3 questions. The first is Darebin Council's recent annual report revealed that its work cover premium paid last year was more than $4 million, which is quite significantly higher than nearby councils or those with similar staff numbers. What changes is Darebin Council making in light of this? 2, what is Darebin Council's comparable work cover employer performance rating, and why was this rating removed from Darebin Council's annual reports from 2023 onwards? I note that many other councils include the figure in their annual reports. And the third question, how many standard work cover claims were accepted in respect of Darebin Council for the last financial year?
Carolyn.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I want to start by saying that Darebin Council is strongly committed to the safety and well-being of its staff. Over the last 2 years, Council has enhanced the classification and reporting of injuries, incidents, hazards, and near misses. This was an important improvement to enable better risk identification and better target the preventive actions. We have implemented a range of initiatives from managing claims quickly and effectively to longer-term actions that address root causes. A few examples of these initiatives include an organization-wide review of OH&S risks to ensure appropriate preventive and mitigating actions are in place, increased staffing in the safety and well-being team to develop and implement a psychological safety framework and also strengthen proactive hazard review and case management, targeted training programs for all staff and leaders, and a review of our safety forums that have led to improvements in safety reportings to executive and senior leadership teams. To the second question about the work cover performance rating. So a work cover employer performance rating would typically be provided by the work cover insurer. Darebin Council uses Gallagher Bassett as our work cover insurer, and they haven't provided us with a comparable rating. It can be difficult to compare within local governments because each local government would have a different scope of service that they provide. So, for example, Darebin provides waste and aged care services in-house when many other councils don't, and those services inherently carry more risks. As per the last question, so about the number of work cover claims, so you can find occupational health and safety information, including related to work cover claims, in our annual report. It's page 45 to 47 of the last one. We treat the work cover claim count as internal only information. However, the annual report provides helpful context and trends analysis, so Darebin can report on work cover claim history as transparently as possible.
Thank you to all the submitters of questions. Moving on to our submissions. Our governance rules permit members of the public to register to and address an ordinary council meeting in relation to reports listed on the agenda. Thank you to those who have registered their intention to do so. Tonight we have received 12 requests to make submissions, and as we have a large agenda to get through this evening, I will exercise my discretion as chairperson in accordance with the governance rules 14.14, and we will hear from each submitter now rather than wait until the agenda item. When I call your name, you are invited to come to the lectern to speak for 2 minutes. To start, we have 10 community members who are requested to make submissions, who have requested to make submissions for item 9.1, JC Donath East Pavilion scoping study options. First, we have Kei Chong Kwok.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Chong. I'm speaking on behalf of the club. I want to be clear what we are asking for. So we've always been accepting of the current budget allocation. However, the current scope options that have been presented do not prioritize the right things. Our position has always been to deliver 6 change rooms with 2 additional change rooms available year-round to the club. We think this is achievable within the existing allocation if project priorities are revisited and non-critical elements are adjusted. The most critical to us are the 2 additional year-round change room access. Without them, 4 change rooms, even if refurbished, do not deliver equitable access to JC Donald East. We're not asking for everything on the list that we would like, we're just asking for the right things to come first. Once the priority is set, we believe a staged approach can be used to support deliverability. Delivering the 2 additional year-round change room as an early stage would reduce the disruption, avoid relocation costs, because obviously you have 2 additional change rooms, maintain participation while later elements are delivered. While staging improves deliverability, it does not on its own address how women's and girls' football can be properly supported during the summer period. As part of the transition, we ask Council to consider providing interim access to Atkinson Reserve, which currently do not have a long-term tenant. Atkinson Reserve already has change rooms, so no additional work is required. So this will enable us to have temporary access to support our girls and women's program, and it is a suitable ground to train and play and will help maintain our participation for this period of transition. In summary, we would like to ask the Council to direct officers to return with an option that delivers all 6 gender-inclusive change rooms, guarantee year-round access to 2 of them, includes non-critical elements in the design so that the project is shovel-ready for future funding opportunities and is delivered within the current allocation. We are also open to working constructively with the Council and its officers, if helpful, as this option is further developed. We understand there are time pressures associated with finalizing designs ahead of external funding milestones, and we are keen to support a clear and efficient path forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Chong. Our next speaker is Jessica Halabi.
Good evening, my name is Jess. I'm a senior women's player at Keon Park Football Club. I'm also a member of the committee. So I see firsthand how change room capacity affects both players and the volunteers trying to make fixtures work. So I want to speak about how fixture congestions and why change room capacity is a practical constraint on how JC Donald East operates. During the football season, we have access to 4 change rooms. Even with all change rooms available, capacity is still insufficient to support fixture properly. On Friday nights, when both our senior women's and senior men's state league teams are scheduled to play, we can't host both matches at the same time. From a committee perspective, this is not an occasional inconvenience. It is a recurring operational issue that requires ongoing workarounds simply to make fixtures viable. On Sundays with junior fixtures, limited change room capacity means we cannot confidently schedule concurrent games or stagger kickoff times efficiently even when multiple fields are available to us. This becomes more difficult as junior teams grow older and their facilities needs increase. The result is longer delays for families and volunteers and inefficient use of the grounds. From both a player and committee perspective, a facility that requires a level of constant adjustments is not functioning as it's intended. With additional separately accessible change rooms, fixture congestion will continue regardless of how well the existing change rooms are refurbished. 6 change rooms with at least 2 accessible all year round would allow fixtures to run properly, reduce the operational burden on the volunteers, and allow the site to function as it should. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, we have Bersa Mankio.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Bushra and I'm a senior women's player at Keon Park Football Club. I want to speak about where girls are being lost from football before they ever reach the senior women's team. There is a well-known drop-off for girls in sport between the ages of 12 and 16. This is the age where privacy, dignity and feeling supported becomes essential. At Keon Park, this is already happening. We have girls moving into under 12 and under 13 teams now. These are the ages where unreliable access to change rooms has the greatest impact. When girls do not know if they have a private place to change or prepare, many simply stop coming. They are not leaving football, they are leaving environments that no longer support them. When girls stop playing sport as teenagers, often because the environment no longer supports them, they are far less likely to return to physical activity later in life. This loss happens quietly, but it has long-term consequences for health, confidence, and community participation. A facility that does not guarantee reliable year-round access will continue to lose girls at this exact point. If we value young women being active in community sport, our facilities must also support them through this stage and not just push them out. 6 change rooms with at least 2 available year-round would help ensure girls can move confidently from junior teams into senior women's football. Thank you for your time and for considering how this decision affects the pathway from girls' sports to active, healthy women in our community.
Thank you, Busra. Next, we have Elif Boyaki online.
Good evening, councillors. My name's Elif. I'm a senior women's player and coach at Keon Park Football Club. I'm also the club secretary, and I want to speak about the site from a whole of ground perspective. For those who aren't aware, JC North East is a multi-field venue site which is used by multiple teams across different age groups and competitions. However, and unfortunately, the current pavilion that's on site and the configuration of it does not support the multiple fields to be used in its full capacity. It really only supports 1 or 2 matches at a time, which I think is a shame because the capacity of space we have there could be used so much more than what it currently is. On many match days, there are multiple fields in use simultaneously, but all the teams that are playing need to rely on a single pavilion for use pre, during and post games. Unfortunately, again, this is not just a football issue for players and coaches. The lack of pavilion capacity affects referees, officials, volunteers, families, and also visiting teams. When we have multiple games running at the same time, pressure builds quickly around changing rooms, toilets, and circulation spaces. This results in a lot of congestion, waiting around, minimal privacy between teams, and extreme stress on club officials to keep making adjustments to keep things moving. As the club secretary, I've seen experience this firsthand. There's so much informal coordination on a weekly basis to make things work. From a planning perspective, the current pavilion just can't meet the needs of the multi-field site that we have. It's not a sustainable model for a continual growth of a community club. And look, the issue is not that the pavilion is old. I mean, a nicer, newer pavilion would be lovely. However, refurbishing the existing layout without increasing the change room capacity just doesn't solve our issue. So, as mentioned before, 6 changing rooms with at least 2 being available year-round would better align with the reality of having a multi-field site. It would reduce operational restraints on volunteers and it'd be a more enjoyable facility for all players, families and members.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Emily Outsikas. Great name, Emily.
Hello, my name is Emily and I'm 13 years old and I play football at Keon Park. Football is really important to me. It is where I see my friends, learn how to work as part of a team and have fun together. Football helps me to stay active and lets me socialise with my friends in person, not just online. It is something I look forward to every week. But during summer, when we lose access to the pavilion, things change a lot for us. We are often not allowed to use change rooms or toilets. Then there is no shade and nowhere to sit if it is too hot or if it is wet. That means we usually have to wait until we get home to change, and sometimes we stay in sweaty clothes after games or training because there is nowhere private or clean to change. Because of this, we often leave straight away instead of spending time together as a team. For girls, this can be harder. In summer, we often miss almost half the team, sometimes even more. When it is too hot or wet, we know we will be stuck in smelly clothes afterwards. Some girls feel embarrassed or anxious and do not come to training or games. When you're a girl who is starting to become a teenager, privacy matters more, and not having a private place to change is really hard. Even though we have a supportive coaches and a supportive club, it still feels like girls' football is not properly supported for part of the year. It is also hard to invite friends to join us when they do not come back because the only access we get to we only get access to basic facilities a few weeks before the season starts. We are not asking for anything special. We just want year-round access to basic facilities so we can play sport comfortably and safely and with dignity. Football should be for everyone all year round. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Emily. Next is Beritan Alton. Beritan. Maybe we can move on to Jamana Albari. Thanks.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Jamana and I'm a senior women's player at Keon Park Football Club. At JC Doneth East, Keon Park supports teams from under-9 girls through to 2 State League women's teams. When change rooms and facility access is unavailable for up to 6 months of the year, it affects everyone from young girls through to adult women, and it goes beyond inconvenience. As a senior women's player, this is hard to watch. We know what this game has given us. Football has given us friendships with women at different stages of their lives, a more active lifestyle and a strong sense of belonging. The support has helped many of us through different stages of life, both on and off the field. So when we see younger girls starting to drift away because the environment does not support them, we know exactly what they are missing out on. Keon Park's main recruitment period is during the off-season, so from November to March. That is also the time when change room access is not available to us. So the period when we are trying hardest to grow women's and girls' football is also the period where the pavilion works the least. This is particularly difficult because female participation at Keon Park alone now exceeds the total playing numbers of the summer tenant using the pavilion. We play clubs from Darebin and neighbouring city councils. Many of them have facilities that clearly show investment in women's and girls' sports. By comparison, the limitations at JC Doneth East sends a different message. Most families do not complain, they quietly stop, or they choose another club in a nearby local government area. Facilities send a message. Right now, the message at JC Doneth East is limiting participation and affecting the culture of women's football at our club. 6 change rooms with at least 2 available year-round will make a real difference. It would help ensure that women and girls feel supported, welcome and valued when they choose to play here. Thank you for your time and for considering how this decision affects recruitment, retention and the culture of women's football at Keon Park.
Thank you, Jamana. Bushra El Khatib.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, councillors. My name is Bushra and I'm a senior women's player at Keon Park Football Club. I want to speak about shared use and why the current change room setup at JC Doneth East does not work in practice. Football at JC Doneth East runs all year and a significant proportion of those football teams are women's and girls' teams who rely on change room access in ways that differ from men's teams. Under the current layout, that reality is not reflected in who actually gets access to change rooms. If no additional change rooms are delivered, the outcome is simple and consistent. For long periods of the year, women's and girls' football teams have no access to change rooms at all. That is not occasional, it is structural. And it matters because access to change rooms is not a luxury for women. It is essential for privacy, dignity and safety. When access disappears, women and girls are left to manage without basic facilities, even though we are a substantial part of the year-round users of this site. That is not what shared use is meant to look like. Council's own documents acknowledge that increased change rooms capacity is needed to support genuine shared use. But the 4 change room options, even when refurbished, do not change the most important part. They leave the access problem unresolved. A facility that only works for women some of the time does not meet basic standards of equity. This is why 4 change rooms, even if they're labelled gender exclusive, do not deliver inclusion in practice at JC Doneth East. 6 change rooms with at least 2 available year-round would change that. It would allow women's and girls' teams to participate consistently with dignity across the full year. Thank you for your time and considering the real impact this decision has on women and girls who play sport year-round.
Thank you, Bushra. Next, Emma Denman.
My name is Emma and I'm a senior women's player at the Keenan Park Football Club. I want to speak about gender inclusive design and why it is more than signs on doors or labels on change rooms. At JC Donath, the pavilion is described as gender inclusive, but inclusion is not something you declare. It is something players experience in practice. For women and girls, that experience depends on whether we can access change rooms reliably and with privacy. With only 4 change rooms, access becomes conditional. We are often required to negotiate and change plans during the season. At times, we cannot rely on change rooms at all. Feeling safe and respected matters. When you do not know if you have a private place to change or prepare, it creates stress before you even step on the field. Over time, that sends a message about who this facility is really designed for. Gender inclusive design is not about replacing urinals with cubicles, it is about capacity. It is about ensuring that there are enough spaces for women and girls are not treated as exceptions or an afterthought. At a multi-team shared use site like JC Donath East, 4 change rooms cannot deliver that outcome. This is why refurbishing 4 change rooms, even if they are labelled gender inclusive, does not deliver inclusion in practice. 6 change rooms with at least 2 available all year round would significantly improve how safe and respected women and girls feel when they use this facility. Thank you for your time and for considering how design and decisions affect the comfort, confidence and participation of women and our girls in our community.
Thank you, Eminem. Last submitter for this evening on this item is Nola Lekanis.
Hi everyone, my name is Nula Lekanis. I have 2 boys that play at Keon Park for the last 4 years. During that time, I volunteer in the canteen. Our facilities in the canteen are very old. We have to cater to children's allergies as well as adults. The facilities are very worn and old. When you are working in the canteen, it gets very hot. We don't have much bench space as well. And it's really hard to move freely around when there's another person in the canteen. Also, our change rooms as well. My children do play at Keon Park as well, and most of the times when they want to change, it's already taken. So we, often have to change at home. So we would like more change rooms, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Nola. I believe you also requested to make a submission in relation to item 9.2. No, that's okay. Sure. Thank you. All right. Our final submitter for this evening is Cameron Meston, who has requested to make a submission in relation to item 9.4, transport projects and strategic goals.
Hello again. My name is Cameron Meston of Northcote. I'm a member of Streets Alive Darebin, a community organisation promoting walking, public transport, cycling and all forms of active travel. The Transport Projects and Strategic Goals report highlights the 150 projects that the Darebin community has provided input on and that have been adopted by Council, but that Council has not started. The report then compares the City of Darebin's performance to other local governments for road safety. It shows that Darebin performs up to 80% worse than other councils for walking and vehicle accidents, and up to 100% worse for cycling accidents. Further, this report shows the systemic underinvestment by Council in walking and cycling infrastructure in Darebin. Darebin Council is going backwards and performs worse than other councils when it comes to transport safety. Darebin Council has a target for increasing mode share for people on bikes, pedestrians and public transport by 20 percentage points by 2028, which means going from 36% to at least 56%. However, the report shows that a decrease in mode share going from 36 to 28.9% in 2023. This shows that a proportion, less people are walking, cycling and getting public transport and more people are using cars. Darebin Council has utterly failed to meet its active transport target. The report shows that this failure is the result of the Council's underinvestment in sustainable travel. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Cameron. Moving on to item 9.9. No, just, oh, yes, Councillor Turu. Yep. Oh, petitions, sorry. There are no petitions to be tabled this evening. So, Councillor Turu.
Can I move that the meeting adjourn for 10 minutes?
Yes, we will adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Salkos. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, if we can take our seats, we're reopening the meeting. So given there's no petitions tonight, we're moving on to item 9, considerations of reports. The first report we have to consider this evening is 9.1, JC Donath East Pavilion scoping options. Councillors, do you have any questions of the officers regarding this item? Councillor Boglis.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Are you able to explain to us the process of what we've just undergone with the club, and I guess how much work that takes away from your planning for something like this?
Through you, Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor. So in response to that, what I can confirm is that each iteration of scope or each new concept to be considered does take time from officers. The team behind the scenes have been engaging with the stakeholders as well as doing up a lot of costings and designs. There is quite a lot of work that goes into providing these updates for councillors. So, yep, that'll be my response.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we will commence the debate. I remind you that once we enter the debate, there will be no further questions. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Villela.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, do we have my motions coming up on the screen at some stage? There it is. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the girls for coming.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Villela, we need a seconder first.
Gosh.
Do we have a seconder for this item? Oh, sorry, there it is. This is the motion that's on the table at the moment. So I'll just read it out. It commits to building the extra 2 change rooms to the building as it currently stands as a priority. The cost is approximately $450,000. The remainder of the allocated funding, approximately $1.6 million, is then used for other features to be determined in consultations with the club. Yes, Councillor Turi has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Is officers' reading of this particular motion that it be delivered within the current budget allocation? Or alternatively, does it require additional budget?
Through you, Mayor, thanks for the question, Councillor. The original budget was $2.05 million, so my maths suggests that is the exact amount that would be allocated within the current budget.
Did you want to say? Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Turi? Does the mover wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Aturi, for seconding the motion. It is basically, I also want to thank the girls for coming in and speaking so eloquently and persuasively about their needs. We've heard what you have to say, and I think that we're all in agreement that we in Darebin would like to see that there is equity in sports participation. And it's great that you girls are active and advocating for your needs. That's what we want to see. This is an area that needs some investment, and they've received money from the state government, acknowledging that there needs to be some work done in order to facilitate gender equity. What we've done here, we were given a couple of options, and some of the options were quite expensive and were quite well detailed. However, they didn't deliver what the club actually needs. And what the club actually needs is 6 change rooms, and you heard that this evening. I don't have to go into it. So we want to acknowledge the growth. The club is growing rather remarkably. If we have a look there, they've got 21 teams, about 330 players, of which 38% are women. And also I want to note that 11 years ago, the 2014 Donath Reserve Master Plan identified opportunities to increase soccer pitches there. There was a long-term strategy, and it it did actually identify that there would be growth. So we also have to note that in the meantime, soccer is played all year round, and we need to respond to that. So to accommodate the increase in demand, of approximately, it's anticipated that there will be about 450 to 500 players by 2027. So it is a growth area, and we need to respond to that and get ready for it. Note that there are currently 4 change rooms. If the allocated funding is spent on only 4 change rooms, the purpose of the funding, which is to increase girls' participation all year round, will not be achieved. And therefore, what's the point? Which is what we heard quite clearly this evening. So what we're trying to do is, with the limited funds that we have, also wanted to note that these discussions have been going on for 4 years. And in that time, growth has happened and some girls have missed out. And we need to address that. This is urgent, and we need to act now so that no more girls miss out, whatever the context is there. So I wanted to note that. So note the projected growth. Therefore, it would make financial sense to build 6 change rooms now to avoid inevitable kind of losses. The opportunity cost is that the girls will miss out. And your taxpayer and your ratepayers.
Councillor Valella.
Yep, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking that we commit to building an extra 2 change rooms to the building as it currently stands. Can we just raise that a little bit, please? As it currently stands, the cost is approximately 450. That can be removed if we don't want to put a figure to it. And the remainder of the allocated funding, which is approximately 1.6, is then used for other features to be determined in consultation with the various clubs.
Thank you, Councillor Valella. Would the seconder like to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Are there any other councillors who'd like to speak in opposition to the motion?
Can I put an amendment up?
Yes.
So I've sent one through to point 9.
Yeah.
And can we also remove the lines where it says the cost is approximately 140?
Yep.
And the remainder be allocated in point A?
Is the amendment acceptable to the mover and the seconder?
Can I just clarify? Sorry, can I just ask one question, if I may? So I'm happy for the amount to be removed because it's an approximate and we don't want to hinder. It's still got within the budget, so that's okay. So when you say endorse the inclusion of option 2A as a design-only component, that doesn't detract from. That doesn't mean that it still means that the extra 2 change rooms will be done.
Councillor Valella, are you asking a question to
I
officers?
just wanted to clarify the amendment, if that's okay.
Officers' question?
Oh, but no, I'm asking the officer will do. That's fine, yep. So basically what that is saying is, if my interpretation is correct, yep, that we will still do point 8 and then, but as an addition, we'll have the design so that down the track, if we want to improve or expand, we've got the plan there, shovel ready. Is that right?
Through you, Mayor, thanks for the question, Councillor. I think I've followed that as well as I can. Essentially, no. So the additional endorsement of including option 2 as a design only would require additional funding. That would be feasibility or design funding would be required to support that piece of work.
Well, was that the...
Can I just confirm that
Do you
designing...
have a question, Councillor?
Yes, sorry, thanks. Through you, Mayor. The option to design 2A but build a modified 2A with the inclusion of the 2 new change rooms, is that extra funding required? I was under the impression it wasn't.
Through the Mayor, can I just ask for clarification that might help officers respond to this, given that we're still digesting this wording? So is it my understanding that you're proposing a scope to budget approach to this and therefore you're not seeking to have a result that adds any budget? Is that what councillors are trying to present here?
We're trying to present that we scope to A and build just the 2 new change rooms and wet rooms.
Sorry, but in a scope to budget, so if we do additional design work, then it will just reduce what we can deliver in the construction phase. Yep. That's right. I think that scope to budget is what I'm trying to look for so that our officers can respond.
No, we don't want that. Get rid of it. No.
So I might see if I can respond. So if we take that approach, we could manage the overall project within the budget. The extra design work would reduce the amount of construction we could do in the first phase. What we haven't done is specifically model that option. So I don't have a view on the detail of that, what the inclusions would be or what the exclusions would be.
Okay, can I remove my amendment then?
Yes, Councillor Tselkos is removing his amendment. So on the table we have the substantive motion as presented by Councillor Villela. Councillor Olaris, do you have a question?
I was going to ask a question, but can we now that one's going or not?
Yeah,
Yes.
Councillor
Just to follow up to
Tselkos.
what was just
Would you like to
answered.
ask a question?
Yeah, it was a question.
Yep.
It was just, so does that mean that the option that's 0.8 also will have, it's not been scoped yet, so that also will have some design costs that need to come out of that before that's spent as well? Because we haven't had that one scoped.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. Yes, that's correct. So we would still need to finalise the scope of that new suggestion and work through that out of the existing budget.
Okay, if there are no further questions, are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Jelly.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very challenging decision because I find it very difficult really to understand the full scope of what 0.8 will actually commit us to, if there's going to be, because we haven't had any broader discussions about where any additional potential budget is going to come from. But I do broadly support the intention of this, and I say this as somebody who used to teach ballet to teenage girls. I've seen myself firsthand experience, and I was teaching mostly in the western suburbs, that there is a drop-off in physical activity for girls when they enter and proceed through high school for a whole range of reasons. There's social pressures, there's also parental pressures to reduce physical activity. And I think what I'm really calling on here is for state and federal governments to properly invest in women's sport and physical activity, and not just issue peanuts that leaves sporting clubs fighting over crumbs. I know it's a bit of a mixed metaphor here, but if you crush your peanuts, you get crumbs. But as it stands now, if we do proceed with this, and if we want to deliver the best outcome for our community, we are basically taking away the option for us to be able to fund other things that we've committed to in our 10-year and 4-year future budget. And we will be left holding the can for something that is, it's been well documented since the rise and huge success of the Matildas in the last couple of years, that there's been an explosion in women's participation in soccer in Australia. And that is a wonderful and a great thing. And councils should be able to be in a position to say, yes, we support young women to remain active and stay active in whatever physical activity they choose throughout their lives. But putting us in a position where we're scrabbling over whether we can afford to do this, it does not make for ideal decision making. So I'm quite torn.
Councillor Sangster.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Firstly, I too would like to acknowledge the Keon Park Football Club and the Dorothy Cricket Club, North Metro Cricket Association for their constructive engagement, and to thank you girls for coming and speaking with us this evening. Your advocacy reflects a genuine commitment to your club and to community sport, and this input has informed our decisions tonight, but we are torn, as you can see. At the heart of this decision is a question of justice and balance. Council has finite resources, and we must ensure that public funds are spent fairly across the entire community. And technically, the proposed 4 gender-inclusive change rooms meet the functional needs of the existing 2 grounds and align with our outdoor sports infrastructure framework. But we have heard from the young women of the club that actually this is not enough. We've heard that it's not enough and that they are feeling vulnerable. So I'm a mother of 3 teenage girls, and 1,000 years ago I was a teenage girl too. It saddens me profoundly that young women continue to feel so vulnerable that they cannot get changed in a communal space with each other, like the men and the boys apparently have been doing. So I think there's bigger questions at play around what's happening for our young women and how they're not supporting each other perhaps to feel safe in their bodies. But I also want to listen to the voices of these young women, and if we can find a way to build these extra 2 rooms, I would be supportive of that.
Thank you, Councillor Sangster. Councillor Telkos?
Thanks, Mayor. And I too would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Thank you to the Keon Park Football Club for their engagement through this process. I know I've spoken to many committee members. And thanks to Councillor Villala for putting this motion up. As everyone is aware, we've been torn. Councillor Sangster also spoke to it about delivering what's needed and what is practical. And I think this is not going to be over budget, I hope. If I'm reading it correctly, it still remains in budget and delivers what the club needs. And it's finding that balance that's very important to us as councillors. So I will be supporting this motion this evening.
Are there any other speakers tonight? Also, Councillor Jelly, did you speak against or...?
I couldn't say that I was speaking one way or the other, sorry.
The reason I'm asking is because the mover has a right of reply if there was one councillor that spoke against. Do you have anything further to add, Councillor Villala?
Did anyone speak against it?
I'm not sure.
You could say technically I was speaking against it. I was speaking with concern.
Yeah.
If you'd like to, I would not punish you for reading it that way, Mayor.
Councillor Villala, would you like a right of reply?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Look, this is within budget, and if we're talking about how much monies we spend on pavilions, where do we start? I've got here in front of me, we've got the KP Hardeman Reserve Pavilion. I think $3 million was spent on that one, and there's the new John Hall Reserve Sporting Pavilion. I'm sure a couple of million went into that one. So this is Keon Park. This has not been touched in years. So when we talk about monies going to pavilions, I just look at our history and that this area, Keon Park, has been neglected. So I'm here to say that I'm not in 2 minds about it, because when I went there, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed at the state that we expect our girls and our boys to play in. It was embarrassing, and I just wish everyone here would go there one afternoon and check it out. So let's not talk about let's be torn, our money's here and there. Monies needs to go in a working class area of Reservoir that is being neglected. End of story. Reservoir is always neglected, but I'm with you, girls.
Thank you. If there are no further speakers, I'll put the item to vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, girls. The next report we have to consider this evening is JC Donath East Pavilion response to NOM. Councillors, do you have any questions of officers regarding this item? If there are no further questions, or if there are no questions, we will commence the debate. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Turi? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tsalkos. Does the mover wish to speak?
I think for the benefit of the meeting, I probably won't speak on this too long. I think all the issues were canvassed in the previous item, but I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor Tsalkos, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, Mayor.
Are there any other councillors who'd like to speak in opposition? Are there any other councillors who'd like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tsalkos, would you like to use your... Nope. Okay, I'll put the item to vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. The next report we have to consider is 9.3, Merry Common and Surrounds Open Space Improvement Project, Community Engagement Outcomes and Final Concept Designs. Do councillors have any questions of the officers regarding this item? If there are no questions, I'll commence the debate. I remind you that once we enter the debate, there'll be no further questions. Councillor O'Brien, would you like to move the motion?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I would like to move the updated version that we have a couple of additions on the end. Yes, 6 and 7. Thank you. So just noting that these were added on advice of officers in relation to some recent conversations. So taking those into consideration as we look at this tonight.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Sangster. Councillor Bryan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. So I will be clear from the outset that I'm supportive of this motion, and I am genuinely excited about what we're working towards for Merry Common and the surrounding sites of Caddy's Corner and Peters Reserve. The project, once completed, will deliver meaningful and long-term benefits to the community, and like our last item, has been a long time in the making. So on that note, I do want to acknowledge the ongoing concerns about the delays and the additional work that Council has carried to keep this project moving. The challenges are largely due to the complexity of working across multiple state government agencies, including VicTrack as the owners and Metro as the managers of the sites, which adds extra work for all the conversations, all of the back and forth. And given of the timing of where we find ourselves now at the end of 2025, I think some historical context is useful for those who are not up to speed with all of this background. Council was invited to apply for the funding from the Victorian State Government's Better Parks and Playgrounds programme in relation to Merry Common in 2023 and successfully advocated for this funding to be used across multiple neighbouring sites for greater impact and to allow for consultation with the community to inform the design. And since being successful, officers have navigated this complex landscape of land ownership, approvals and responsibilities across multiple departments and agencies, and that has meant much of the timing has been out of Council's control. So despite those challenges, where we are now, significant progress has been made by now, particularly within this year, we've seen some leaps and bounds, which is great. We've seen the development of a detailed project plan, draft concept designs and extensive due diligence covering contamination, flora, fauna, heritage, flooding and planning considerations. The community has been deeply engaged, and while not everyone will see everything that they hoped for, the designs before us, I believe, are thoughtful, responsive and grounded in that feedback. We know elements of this remain out of our control, so the motion before us now strikes a pragmatic balance to try address this reality. It allows us to adopt the draft designs, acknowledge the outstanding approvals still required from the landowner, and respond constructively to the state's proposal around maintenance, which being absolutely clear that any maintenance arrangement must be fully funded, must not transfer contamination risk to council, and must properly account for the complexities of the work within a rail corridor. On that basis, I support the motion, and I also want to place on the record my many thanks to officers and the community for their persistence in getting to this point. My hope now is that the state is able to approve the designs and enable council to move from planning to delivery of this project without much further delay. Thank you.
Councillor Sangster, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. So I'm rising as well to support the officer's recommendation. As Darebin continues to grow and densify, access to high quality, welcoming public open space is not a luxury, it's an essential infrastructure. Projects like this remind us that our green spaces and our waterways are precious, finite assets that cannot be taken for granted. I want to thank the community and stakeholders for their thoughtful feedback. And while it is a shame that we were not able to include a new public toilet in the mix, we have been able to deliver improvements that support both active and passive use of the spaces across all ages and abilities. From nature-based play, outdoor gym equipment, enhanced play opportunities, all these programs strengthen everyday access to health, connection and well-being. And importantly, the project places strong emphasis on Indigenous planting and environmental care. The inclusion of species such as the red ironbark, the spotted gum and the grey box not only support local biodiversity, but also reflect a deeper respect for country and the ecological systems that sustain our waterways. These trees are long-lived, they're resilient and they're lovely, and they reinforce the importance of designing with country and not against it. By enhancing these spaces along the Merry Creek corridor, we're acknowledging the vital role waterways play in cooling our city, supporting wildlife and connecting people to the wild. In a changing climate, investments like this are acts of stewardship for future generation. And leveraging the $1.5 million in state government funding and progressing the works responsibly is both practical and forward-thinking. For these reasons, I'm deeply grateful for the officer's work and I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sangster. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak in opposition? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Turi.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank officers for their work in firstly considering the community's feedback and putting the proposal to us. It's good that we're able to proceed with the improvements on the parcel of land, of course, subject to the approval of the grant provider. It is, as I think Councillor O'Brien mentioned, particularly frustrating that the landowner of the remaining parcels of land has yet to approve design submitted to it by council. So I wish they would really get a move on so we can deliver this important project for the community. Of course, just to very briefly touch on the last couple of clauses, it's important that we have an arrangement in place to maintain those parcels of land, and hopefully we can come to an agreement subject to those to that criteria outlined in clause 7 to maintain the very beautiful area that it will be once the project is completed. And I will also be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Great. Are there any other speakers? If there are no further speakers, I'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.4, transport projects and strategic goals. Are there any questions to officers? Given there are no questions, we will enter debate, and once debate's entered, there cannot be any questions. Councillor Jolly, would you like to move a motion?
Yes, I would like to move a motion that I circulated earlier today. Thank you, Mayor.
Is that the motion on the
That's
screen?
the motion, yes, thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Sangster? Councillor Jelly, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to start by congratulating Council on the achievement of our goals to reduce deaths and serious injuries for pedestrians and reducing crash injuries on Darebin's roads. These are significant outcomes and they reflect our shared commitment to making our streets safer. But this report also raises concerns that we cannot ignore. It is very concerning to see that safety ranking for people riding bikes in Darebin compared to other council areas. Every single one of us here, I know because we've had this conversation before, believes that everyone deserves to be safe on our roads, and that means we have an even greater responsibility to act. The report reminds us that council has an important role in assessing and managing road safety risks. That responsibility is guided not only by legislation and design standards, but also by strategies that we have endorsed with strong community support. Despite this long list of initiatives, we are undertaking to increase walking, riding and public transport, as outlined in one of the appendices to this report. We are still a very long way from achieving our goal of 56% sustainable transport use by 2028. This means we have heavy lifting to do, councillors, this term to improve a council's performance. Darebin is well known as a climate leader, as you all know. When we adopted our Darebin plan earlier this year, we recommitted ourselves to driving opportunities for zero emissions. Transport is projected to be the biggest source of carbon emissions by 2030 unless we change our focus and our budget settings. That's why I'm calling for modelling to come back to us next year so that we can better align our financial investment with our climate action goals. The way we support our net zero ambitions is by focusing on our decision making on the bigger picture. This report shows that we've done extensive consultation with our community, including local schools, and we have over $30 million worth of endorsed projects ready to progress. Now is the time to keep our promise to our community and deliver on those projects. It is incumbent upon us to commit funding to these projects and prioritising them according to our strategic goals. There may be very many reasons why sustainable transport use dropped from 36% to below 30% in 2023, but it is our job as council to look at that 56% target and consider how we will strive to achieve it. The key incentives that encourage people to choose sustainable transport are connection, protection and convenience. That is connection to where you need to go, protection from known safety risks and the convenience to make sustainable choice easier. This is about safety, climate action and community trust. Let's be bold and innovative in the way we deliver on these commitments. I commend this motion to you. Thank you.
Councillor Sangster, would you like to speak as a seconder?
No, I reserve my right. Thank you.
Are there any speakers against the motion? Councillor Tselkos.
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. And councillors, I'll be speaking against this motion this evening. I'm conscious that this could be framed as not supporting Darebin's transport strategy targets, but that's far from the truth. It's about making sure that we follow sound process, get the right advice, and make decisions based on evidence. Supporting active transport means getting the priorities right, and that starts with letting the officers do the work we've asked for them. In item 3, we've asked about receiving a briefing on approaches to prioritising and investing in network improvements. The intent is to step back, look at the evidence, and understand how we can make better, more informed decisions going forward. Introducing any specific project types or signalling budget increases at this point predetermines the outcome of that work. It effectively tells officers where we want to land before they've had a chance to fully assess the options, the trade-offs, and the wider impact across the network. And in my opinion, that's not the best way to get advice. It also risks undermining the confidence in the process, both internally and from community, who expect these decisions to be based on clear analysis rather than assumptions made up front. If we want a robust and creditable approach, we need to let officers complete their review and present their findings in full. Once we have that information, we can have a proper, informed discussion about priorities, funding levels, and where investment will deliver the greatest benefit. Until then, I think it's important that we avoid locking ourselves into positions. For those reasons, I won't be supporting this.
Councillor Olaris.
Yep, I just wanted to foreshadow an alternate motion if this one's not successful.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Turi.
Mayor, I'm in your hands as to the ruling about whether this is an amendment or an alternate motion, but I would propose that all words after April 2026 be deleted. First is an amendment, but if it's not, then...
Councillor Terry, that'll be an alternate motion. So if this current motion as it stands doesn't pass, you can raise an alternate motion. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. I will rise to speak in favour of this motion. I listened to the objections to the words that have been added, and I just don't see how we've landed with that interpretation. What we're adding here is taking the work of officers, so there's nothing about preempting or directing, anything that might come out of that work. It's more about having that work done, but including then what we understand from that work to the next budget process, which we know we are underway with starting to explore already. And in terms of prioritising transport projects that work towards achieving the transport strategy, one would assume that the work that's done to identify projects would come up with a priority list. That's generally how these processes work. So all we're saying there is that we would acknowledge and hopefully work towards what those priorities are deemed to be. So doing the very honouring of the work that we're saying this might undo. So I'm a bit unsure about how this has been interpreted. Item B, increase the available capital funding for transport improvement projects. I wholeheartedly support that. We have a range of commitments. We know we have commitments that we're all passionate about in our various ways, but the data speaks to us here. We're behind. We're going backwards in sustainable and active transport in Darebin, and that's not a great picture to be telling our community, because that means their safety is not being taken seriously. So we can continue to go backwards, or we can understand how we move forward, and we have a target. So let's work to that target, and let's understand the investment that it takes to do that. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Sangster, you reserved your right to speak. Would you like to speak to them?
No, thank you.
Councillor Jelly, you have a right of reply. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for sharing your concerns. What I noted in what was listed as concerns was that this is somehow a predetermination of how we spend our budget. That is why I'm calling for the briefing to include options for us to consider how we invest our budget. So there is no predetermination there, other than indicating that we would like to hear more about how we can move forward with that. On the question of process, there was mention about analysis. We have the analysis here in the appendices. Yes, there is further analysis to be undertaken that will come to us within the briefing. So I think if you're voting against this, you're actually voting against getting a briefing in February, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So it is important that we proceed to this briefing, and that briefing includes the all-important option that we talked about a lot tonight, and that is, where do we find the money? The report that we have before us lists in total, and it's very clear in black and white, that the total list of projects that have been endorsed come to a sum of $30 million. Now that is almost the entire sum of what we would normally spend in one annual capital budget spend. So if we were to proceed at the snail's pace that we've been currently progressing to all the best efforts of everybody on council, it would take us over a decade, possibly, to deliver all of those projects. So the way that we can meet our target most effectively is to invest in the projects, and there are some of those that are listed here as being high priority projects to advance the cause of mode shift in sustainable transport. And I just pull one from page 63 that's listed as high priority for Arp Avenue and Aloma Road intersections with where that intersects with Corbin Street. There is a project there of $160,000 that has not started yet. That's been endorsed quite a long time ago, and it is time that is those sorts of projects that we need to move on, that we have right in front of us in black and white that tell us where the priorities lie.
If there are no further speakers, I will put this item to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Jelly's motion as it currently stands. It's Councillor Sangster, Councillor Julie O'Brien and Councillor Ruth Jelly. All those against the motion? Councillor Arturi, Councillor Boglis, Councillor Olaris, Councillor Tselkos, Councillor Valala and Councillor Dimitriadis. I declare the motion not carried. Councillor Olaris, would you like to raise your motion?
Yes, so it's essentially the officer recommendation. So what's up on the screen without the red? Yep, thank you.
Mayor, can we seek some governance advice, please? Given that this is very largely similar word for word for the first part of the motion that we just voted down, are we able to reconsider exactly the same elements? I'm just not clear with that in the governance rules. Thanks.
Councillor Jallies, the amendment that you had raised was substantially different to the officer's recommendation because it brought in new items. So if that fails as a motion fully, then we have the right to go back to the original motion. Thanks. A seconder for the original motion, Councillor Turi. Councillor Alaris, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking the officers for producing this report and the substantial work behind it. It's incredibly comprehensive. Council does have a really important role in assessing and managing road safety risks across our community. And I think, it is therefore a very challenging report to read, noting the large number of endorsed projects that remain outstanding and recognising that this list has yet to add the Your Street, Your Say Group C projects, which are still being compiled. It's also concerning to hear, as the questioner mentioned earlier, that compared to other councils, Darebin is falling behind in road safety performance, particularly for vulnerable road users. Council is working in a very tight financial environment, though, and we also have a range of other incredibly important priorities as well. So this is a really tricky consideration for us, which is why I particularly felt with the last suggestions that we needed to really see this report before we can further decide what direction we're heading with this strategy and how we will be allocating funds in the budget. So we've got, as you can see, a couple briefing coming up in Feb and then a report in April. I think it's also important to acknowledge that officers and councillors have been working together over recent months to review and strengthen our approach to transport planning and delivery. Very much looking forward to the report early next year, and hope that we'll get a clearer direction for council in this important area and support us to make decisions that will prioritise the projects which will most make a difference and set us up to apply for grants to help deliver them as well. So thank you.
Councillor Turi, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Any speakers in opposition, rather? Nope. Okay. Councillor Jelly, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just raising a couple of points that Councillor Olaris raised. I think there is one very compelling reason for us to ensure that we are taking action, as you say, on the projects that are going to make the most difference. And that compelling reason is that 20% of Darebin's current emissions come from our transport network. And we have made, as this report shows, negative progress on our transition to sustainable and active transport over the last 5 years of council. We do need to take urgent action to ensure that we are doing that, and I hope that the briefing that comes to us in February will clearly outline exactly which of those projects that are on the list will help us more quickly and get more bang for our buck in terms of achieving the goals that are outlined not only in the transport strategy but also in our climate emergency plan, which, as we've noted, requires a significant shift from people out of private motorised vehicles into active and sustainable forms of transport, including public transport. So I'm glad to hear that this is going to be supported by some councillors, or at least those councillors who have moved the motion, moved and seconded the motion, but this really does come down to how we allocate the limited resources that we have and how we ensure that that is strategically aligned to achieve the best possible outcomes in line with the endorsed plans that our community has been telling us for many years that they want to see, which is action on climate now.
Are there any other speakers to the item? Councillor Turi, would you like to speak? You reserved your right? No? Okay, if there's no further debate, I will put this item to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.5, Federal Black Spot Program 26-27. Are there any questions to officers? No questions. We will commence the debate. Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Villela? Is that are you moving the officer's recommendation? Yep. You're moving the officer's recommendation? Yep. And Councillor Boglis as the seconder. Would you like to speak? Yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Very quickly, this is very encouraging. It is funding made available through the Federal Black Spot Program. There's $3 million, and it's the federal government is offering grants of up to $3 million, fully funded, for to address high-risk locations where crashes have occurred or are likely to occur. So it's interesting that the two areas identified by the officers is Gilbert Road Reservoir between Union Street, along Gilbert Road, Union Street to all the way to Edward Street, and the other one is Arundel Avenue, Finton Grove, which is just off Keon Parade. That's an area there that the traffic, and I'm really glad that this has been identified, because the traffic there is so congested. It's coming from all directions, and it's very, very dangerous. So anyway, just to cut a long story short, this is good. It's money. It's going towards all our. It's aligned with all our, values, etc., and hopefully it will provide for safety on the roads. Thank you.
Wonderful. Councillor Boglis, as the seconder, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. I rise in strong support of the Darebin's engagement with the Federal Black Spot Program and the nomination of two reservoir locations, one of them being namely Gilbert Road and Union Street at Edward Street as a priority safety location. Having worked for a road trauma counselling service, I know firsthand how one fatality impacts a whole community. The Black Spot program targets areas with a history of crashes, particularly those causing serious injury and fatalities, and providing funding for an evidence-based safety upgrade that saves lives is imperative. So thank you to officers for all of their work in bringing this to us tonight. Gilbert Road has a documented history of road trauma, including casualty crashes and past fatalities. So local assessments and community feedback have highlighted ongoing concerns, and particularly near these schools and community facilities. So thank you to the residents as well who have shared this section as a high risk and reinforcing the need for these safety interventions. The proposed measures here lowers speed limits. It raises platforms, marked crossings, buffered bike lanes and a curb outstands aligned with the safety system approach. And this, in line, aims to reduce speed, shorten crossing distances and improves visibility for all road users. So supporting this nomination is about preventing serious injuries and fatalities in the future and making Darebin's safer streets more livable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boglis. Are there any other speakers? If there are no further speakers, I'll put the item to vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.6, Property Matters, Sale of Minor Assets, Victorian School Building Authority, application for road discontinuance, Reservoir Views Primary School. Do councillors have any questions to the officers? No questions? Then we will commence debate. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Turi? And a seconder, Councillor Tselkos. Councillor Turi, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, Mayor, thank you. the motion itself is fairly self-explanatory. I'll just point out one particular feature that I think is worth mentioning, and that is Clause 2. I think it is important that when we, I guess, relinquish the land to the VBA, that the VSBA rather, that there is a flexibility in what council actually receives in consideration of that, to ensure that we have the best outcome for the community and for council. I think that is a prudent way of going about doing it. I feel like the rest is very self-explanatory. So, Mayor, I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arturi. Councillor Tolkas, would you like to speak as the seconder?
I'll reserve my right.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Valala.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, very quickly, I'm glad to see that point number 2, that we consider that there's some value, market value, from the government, the state government, because I just want to inform everyone that when the council had to pay for the former Ruthven Primary School, even though it was state land, we had to pay for it, which is now a park in Reservoir. So there's nothing for free. The state government won't give us anything for free. So if they want something of our money, of our land, council land, people land, they need to pay for it too. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Nope. No right to reply. Okay, so I will put this item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda, we have 9.7, Darebin Property Expressions of Interest, Trench 2. Councillors, do you have any questions of the officers regarding this item? No? Well, we'll move into debate. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Ruth Jelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a slightly different version of what Councillor saw earlier today that incorporates 2 decisions to defer at point 3 and point 4. I think there's another deferral. There's a deferral that's slipped off the... Oh, no, there it is. There's a referral done at the end as the 3rd deferral. And there's a slight change in 9.B, which is as it was when I circulated the motion earlier today. Hope that's clear to my fellow councillors. I think there's a request to scroll upwards a bit more again.
Councillor Jelly, is that your amendment on the screen? Or your motion, sorry?
Yes.
Yep. Do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Brien. Questions?
Only, is this circulated so I can read the whole thing on the screen? Or?
So it was, through you, Mayor, circulated in parts. Officers in our pre-meeting this evening circulated the wording for how to defer items 3 and 4 and point 11 down the bottom, which is for the Old Preston Police Station.
Okay, I've got it now. Thank you.
Councillor Tolkas.
Thanks, and through you, Mayor, I just have a question on point 9, and if B refers to submitter 10 or another submitter.
Yeah. So it doesn't, the actions in there don't refer to a specific submitter. So the actions referenced are in one of the confidential appendices, and the first part, there's an action relating to submitter 10, and then there's an action underneath that which is more general.
Okay, so Councillor Jelly, as the mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So in moving this motion, I want to highlight that we've had a few challenges with making a clear decision on some of the proposals that Council has received. And as you know, we have a variety of submitters who are interested in the properties listed in points 3 and 4, 2 and 3, in Pioneers Retreat and 2 of the sheds at Wingrove Street in Elphington. But we can't easily accommodate all of the submitters who have expressed interests in those 2 sites. There may be another option that accommodates all 3 of these, but I would like us to have a greater certainty about how we can possibly navigate that complexity before we make a decision about those 2 sites. And that's why I'm proposing a deferral until we have that further information from officers. I do acknowledge there is some potential risk associated with that deferral. I seek the patience of those submitters in bearing with us while we navigate this process. Likewise, there's a need to defer the decision about the future of the Old Preston Police Station site. There are a range of sites where we have some good, clear options in front of us to support activation of council sites around North Curtin Reservoir, and so my motion from a number of points aligns with the officer's recommendation. Turning to point 9, I do support the leasing of the ground floor of the Edwards Lake Boathouse as recommended, but the future of the first floor needs more consideration. The confidential advice in Appendix B notes the need for significant investment to enable activation of this site for either commercial or community use. But what we don't have is information, such as from community consultation or other such, about what the community wants for the future of the boathouse. I believe that a decision about what investment is needed for the boathouse should be taken during our budget deliberations, not just in this meeting tonight, which is what the original motion from the officers recommended. So hence I'm proposing here that we deliberate further on whether and how we can incorporate this into our constrained budget. Again, that seems to be the theme of this evening. If investment in future activation of the boathouse is proposed to be included in future budget years, then I believe the community ought to have the chance to have a say on that expenditure through the budget submissions process. So due to the confidential nature of the expression of interest process, which is there for very good probity reasons, we have been tasked with making a decision on behalf of the community. And there's nothing untoward about that, I'll just be clear, but it means that we've not been able to seek broad community views about this before making this decision tonight. So I really do hope that you can support this proposal to take a cautious approach to committing the funding towards activation of the boathouse. Thanks.
Councillor O'Brien, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll reserve. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Sangster.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, so regarding 9B, particularly looking at the second floor, I'm also concerned that the community potential of this site is going to be constrained before it's been fully explored. Investing substantial council funds to prepare it for commercial use sits uneasily alongside the reality many community services face. This is compounded by a proposal to remove the possibility of community access in this space, because a commercial venue is not a community venue, and to make a decision based around wanting something what's best for the community, of course we all want that space to be activated, but to go into a cafe or any restaurant or anything, you need money, and you only get to be there for as long as you're spending money. So it seems unrealistic to me to say opening it up to a commercial venue makes it a public space. That's just not true. Tonight should not be about closing doors on high-value community outcomes before we've fully explored them. So I support taking this a little bit more time and exploring it through the budgeting process.
Councillor Valella.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking against it.
Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. This concept, I'm referring to 9B. I actually think a cafe is a community space, maybe because I'm European and we like the idea of piazzas where people come together. So I don't think, when it comes to community space, I actually think commercial enterprise is a community space, and so therefore
Councillor
I disagree with AB, and I'm speaking against it.
Are there any other speakers?
Can I just raise just a general point of order? I'm not against Councillor Vella necessarily, but there are elements of the appendices that are confidential, and I think councillors have inadvertently spoken directly to the contents of those appendices. So a point of order, but also a warning to councillors when they're making contributions, not only to Councillor Vella.
Yeah, councillors would just like
Point
to
taken,
remind
councillor.
you, of the confidentiality requirement around this item. Are there any other speakers? Nope. So we'll put the item to vote. Sorry, Councillor O'Brien, would you like to use your right of reply?
Yes, no, sorry,
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
you're reserved your right.
Reserved.
My apologies.
Thank you. Too many R's and E's. Yes, thank you, Mayor. So as I guess spoken about in a couple of different ways, I do think this motion presents a mixture of positive opportunities, but alongside some difficult decisions that warrant careful consideration. It's not a criticism of officers, but the work behind this process is very complex, and the effort that's gone into that is recognised, and I thank them for it. But for me, the balance between the community benefit and the revenue generation does not quite land where I'd like to see it, and I do believe that council has a responsibility to both. While some commercial pathways before us will generate income and deliver services, in some cases, I believe stronger returns could be pursued. And that in turn would allow us to better balance revenue generation with lower cost, high value community uses across our broader asset base. There are 3 properties in particular that concern me, and they are the ones that are now ultimately dealt with in this motion that we've got before us. So Pioneers Retreat in Northcote, the site already delivers a significant and well-established community benefit that aligns closely with council priorities. And while an alternative may offer a broader activation, I'm not fully convinced that this justifies displacing a proven and thriving use without certainty of a suitable alternative location. We need to make the best decisions across all sites, and for that reason, I support a short deferral so that we can ensure that this work can continue to provide an appropriate siting. The boathouse, as we've just heard discussed, does have various views. My concern is with the potential investment that is outlined in the appendices and the potential of that being commercial pathway. That doesn't sit very comfortably with me when we know community organisations are struggling for space. It's compounded for me by containing elements that are contrary to our climate commitments, and I can't go into details of that, but that is a valid concern for me. Also, increased traffic, litter, and the pressure on local wildlife associated with a potential commercial pathway is a deep concern. I think we owe it to the location to explore the community-led options that may come out as we look at 9B as it's before us. And finally, Rosebery Avenue. This property we know has huge potential, and we know we have valuable people who are wanting to work in this space, so I think keeping the door open tonight is important. Thank you.
Given that there's no other speakers to this item, we'll put the item to vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Arturi, Councillor Boglis, Councillor Ruth Jelly, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Laris, Councillor Sangster, Councillor Tselkos and Councillor Demetriadis. All those against? Councillor Villala. Okay, moving on to item 9.8, Planning Amendment, Better Decisions Made Faster Bill 2025. Councillors, do you have any questions of the officers? Given there are no questions, we'll commence the debate. Do I have a mover of this motion? Councillor Turi. Is there a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Does the mover wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The MAV has provided local government sector and the state government with its position paper.
Pardon me, I'm sorry to interrupt, Councillor. Pardon me, Mayor, was there an additional clause that we were recommended later this afternoon?
Oh, yeah, it was that.
I'm so sorry, Councillor Arturi.
Thank you so much. No, thank you.
Yes, we do have a
I thought I was
revised
speaking on the wrong item for a minute.
No,
there.
revised officer's recommendation. Thank you.
And of course, since its publication of this paper, the Legislative Council has indeed passed the bill with amendment. And I think it's important to highlight some of the outcomes of the MAV's advocacy on behalf of councils like ours. For those who have not read the summary provided by the MAV, the creation of a new head of power to require affordable housing contributions as part of new development, with any funds collected in lieu of physical contribution to be spent on new affordable housing in the same city. And this is indeed a groundbreaking improvement to Victoria's planning system and something councils have been seeking for decades. The original bill contained a clause that revoked Section 38 of the Act, which gave either House of Parliament the power to disallow planning scheme amendment, a power that has existed since 1987. Through the MAV's advocacy, this power has been retained, and this is consistent with 71 other Acts of Parliament on the books. Retaining ecological processes in the objectives of the Act, and a commitment from the Minister that public notice will remain a general requirement for new residential development proposed under codes such as townhouses and low-rise codes, as well as a commitment to include the MAV and councils in drafting regulations to implement the bill over the next couple of years. Mayor, as the paper says, the sector supports more housing, just as we do. New homes require more than planning approvals alone. They need infrastructure, development finance and construction labour and materials. And the planning system, and indeed local councils and the roles that we play in that process is critical. And unfortunately, many elements of the bill fell short. So whilst not all the recommendations and amendments were passed, I do, for the purposes of this motion, commend the MAV for their work on behalf of the sector, including our council, and I commend the motion to the chamber.
Councillor Jelly, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'm speaking in favour of this position paper because the planning amendment bill, particularly in its original form, proposed to sideline councils, and it was quite rushed through as a process without proper consultation with local councils. In its original form, it weakened environmental safeguards and ignored affordable housing requirements. But I'm really proud to say that last week, Greens Upper House MP secured some of the key improvements that were sought by MAV. In fact, 6 of the MAV's recommendations were supported by our Upper House MPs, which ensured that ecological processes will be preserved in the objects of the Planning and Environment Act, and that Parliament will retain the power to disallow planning scheme amendments, including fossil fuel developments, if they are harmful to the community. As Councillor Arturi mentioned, I think the establishment of a Planning Regulations Advisory Committee is a really important measure, and it's been secured with a majority, and that will have a majority of local government representatives and planning experts. And Councillor Arturi very expertly covered the improvements around notice requirements to inform residents. But the provisions for councils to require, that will allow councils to require affordable and social housing in new developments are really important outcomes for Darebin, the Darebin community, and align with our existing housing position statements. It's still a deeply flawed bill, unfortunately. It's grounded in the false premise that planning approvals are the problem with housing supply. But, however, recent analysis that's been undertaken by Burundara Council shows that only 12.5% of multi-unit planning applications since 2019 that have been approved, only 12.5% of those have been completed. So the issue isn't really with planning, it's elsewhere. But I will finish by saying that the wins achieved in the Upper House last week show what can be achieved when communities, councils and advocacy groups work together, and when Greens MPs use their influence to secure practical outcomes. So I deeply commend the work of the MAV, and it's a very comprehensive paper, and I encourage you all to support this motion.
Are there any councillors in opposition to the motion? Are there any other speakers? Given there are no other speakers, I'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.9, Advisory Committee Review. Councillors, do you have any questions of the officers? Councillor Boglis.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Can I just ask officers, what is the difference between the wording considers establishing versus establishing?
Thank you. My understanding of the difference of words is that one will ensure establishment and the other allows the organisation to consider its establishment, or council to consider its establishment at a point in time.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Nope. Given there are no other questions, I'll put the item to the vote. Oops, sorry. Sorry. I'll put the item... Oh, mover, sorry. Got ahead of myself. Councillor Olaris.
Keen to just put forward the officer motion that's up on the screen.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sangster?
Sorry, had we got a seconder for Councillor Boglis's first?
No, sorry. Councillor Olaris moved a motion. And
Okay.
did you want a second?
I would like to second the...
Oh, sorry.
Hasn't
Withdraw
it
your...
come up yet?
Yeah, so you'll withdraw being the seconder? Yep. Do we have a seconder for the officer's recommendation, which is put up by Councillor Olaris? Councillor Tselkos as the seconder. Councillor Olaris, would you like to speak to this motion?
Sure. Thank you. So I don't think I need to tell everyone in this room that advisory committees play an incredibly important role in connecting into the huge amount of expertise and lived experience held by our committee organisations, committee members and other people in Darebin. So I want to start by acknowledging the many committee members who generously give their time and knowledge through these committees. So their contribution is incredibly valuable and strengthens Council's work. So this review in this report is about strengthening the role of advisory committees, not diminishing it. The review underway is to assess how well our The review underway is to assess how well the current model aligns with our new council plan, the priorities within it, and to identify opportunities to improve efficiency, focus and impact, including improving ways the valuable advice from advisory committees is integrated into council decision-making. It's important to note that current committee members have been separately communicated with, so thank you to the team. They've been kept informed of this process. And also to note that the Darebin Aboriginal Advisory Committee is undergoing a separate review, so it has obviously a distinct role and process associated with it. As outlined in the paper, the proposed direction is for fewer, more focused committees aligned to the council plan themes, but these might be supported by other complementary engagement mechanisms such as working groups, reference panels and forums. So tonight's decision is an in-principle one, allowing the further detailed work to be brought back to Council at a report in March 2026, while extending existing committees to June 2026 to make sure that we have a smooth transition between those two dates. So, councillors, I hope you will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tselkos, as the seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, and thanks, Mayor. I'll try to keep it brief. I am speaking in favour of this motion tonight. But before I go any further, I want to thank all our committees and the work both officers and committee members do and contribute to Council. That contribution is valued, and if this resolution is passed, I look forward to another 6 months with our current committees. Our advisory committees are vital to Council in delivering quality outcomes across everything we do. That said, this review is extremely important. It will provide council with clear guidance on the future advisory committee model, including the number, the scope of committees, their terms of references, and the way advice is fed back into council. Getting this right will actually strengthen how committees support our decision-making councillors. Importantly, this review will ensure our committees are structured in a way that supports our council plan and our strategic directions, including the Aboriginal culture and knowledge, equity, diversity and inclusion, health and well-being, climate leadership and response, vibrant places and economy, and strong decision-making, community engagement and transparency. So I hope everyone votes for this motion this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Tselkos. Are there any councillors who wish to speak in opposition to the motion? Are there any other speakers? Nope. Okay, if there are no other speakers, I will put this item to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Arturi, Councillor Jelly, Councillor Ruth Jelly, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Laris, Councillor Sangster, Councillor Tselkos, and Councillor Dimitriadis. All those against? Councillor Boglis and Councillor Valella. Yep, so that's carried. Item 9.10, 2025-2026 Quarter 1 Performance Report ending the 30th of September 2025. Are there any questions to officers? No questions. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Tselkos? Do I have a seconder? Councillor O'Brien? Councillor Tselkos, would you like to speak as the mover?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. I'll keep it brief, and I'll like to thank officers for putting this report together. And in particular, I want to quote our CEO, Anne Howard, from the report, who described this new quarterly report designed to align with our Darebin Plan 25-29 and make it easier for our community to see how we're tracking. So thank you, Anne. I also want to note that for the first time, this report includes some service performance snapshots and provides a clear overview of 8 key services and areas that shape the daily life in Darebin. While there's still some work to do on some of those indicators, this report allows us to be transparent with our community and bring them along on that journey. So for those reasons, I will be supporting noting this report, and I hope everyone else does.
Councillor O'Brien, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe Councillor Tselkos has covered most of it, but what I would say is, given this format is new and we're, very deliberately taking these steps to keep our community more appraised of what we're doing, we would welcome feedback on it, I guess. What does this look like as a community member reading this report? Does it make sense? Does it give you the information that you feel you want from us as council? And if there's some suggestions, I'm sure most of us, all of us probably would be happy to hear those, and we can iterate as we go. But I think it's a fantastic step forward, and I thank our CEO and council officers for bringing it to us. Thank you.
Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Oh, Councillor Turi.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Mayor. Councillors Tselkos and O'Brien went through the report quite well, but I do want to raise another point. Should be noted, councillors, that this is only one report in the grand scheme of things that gives us a snapshot in certain aspects of the work that the organisation is doing. In addition to this, obviously, we have our budget, operational and capital works projects and implementations of council resolutions. The reason I raise this point about the work that council has underway is that we as an organisation and as a council group should want to be known as a council that gets stuff done, that implements our plans, strategies and budgeted projects in a timely fashion and for the benefit of our community. And by and large, we do, thanks to the hard work of officers, project managers and their respective teams. They are extremely busy, and I want to commend them on their work in implementing our plans and strategies so far in this term. But I also want us as councillors to remain focused on delivering and prioritising what we already have on our plate. In particular, when we sit around this table and consider amendments, notices of motion and the like. So just a bit of a side note to this new format report, which I very much enjoyed reading, and I will commend the report to the chamber. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Given there are no other speakers, I'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 9.11, project and initiative budget adjustments. Councillors, do you have any questions? Given there are no questions, I'll ask for a mover of this motion. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tselkos. And a seconder, Councillor Villella. Councillor Tselkos, would you like to speak to the item?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. As we all know, this is a new report that comes to us monthly, and it just gives us an update on some of our projects, the overs and unders, and ensures transparency to our community when we're making decisions and where our money is actually being allocated to. So, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Tselkos. Councillor Villella, would you like to speak as a seconder?
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other speakers? Given there are no other speakers, we'll put the item to vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 9.12, Governance Report, December 2025. Councillors, do you have any questions to the officers? No questions. Do we have a mover of the motion? Oh, I believe this is a revised motion of the officers as well. Would a councillor like to move the item? Councillor Tselkos. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Tselkos, would you like to speak to the item?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll keep it brief again. It's getting late, and I'm sure everybody wants to go home and doesn't want to hear me speak for another 3 minutes. But I would like to thank officers for their work in preparing the governance report. We know that not many people would read it, and it does include very important information. It includes our meeting minutes. It includes, I've lost my page. I can keep talking. Our advisory committee meeting minutes, our attendance. It includes petitions that have been tabled and where they're at. So I recommend the community to read it. It's very detailed, and I thank the officers for their work.
Thank you, Councillor Tselkos. As the seconder, Councillor O'Brien, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will just rise briefly to explain, I guess, number 7 being removed. So that's what was in the original paper. Officers have just advised that there's a little bit of work done, needing to be done on getting the wording right, and we'll deal with that separately. But I just want to make sure that nobody looking at this believes that the work that we brought forward last month on the Climate Emergency Plan Energy Support Programme is at risk as a result of this. We firmly stood behind that last month. It's just a little bit of a tweak with the wording and the allocation of the upper caps and income earner levels that need to be adjusted to get that wording correct. So just, drawing people's attention to that one. And I guess the other bit that I think is good for us to keep track of, because, we move quickly from month to month, but the different things that are covered in this report also include confidential items considered. And so just, it's a good way to keep track of those. They're in there. We can see if they've been resolved or not and made public in the meantime. And so obviously we have some confidential papers tonight. They will be added to that list. They will be resolved in time. So it's just a good way for the community, again, to keep track on the other elements, continuing to build on our transparency commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Turi.
Nothing further to add. I just want to put on the record that this is my favourite report.
That's good to know. Okay, so Given there's no other speakers, we'll put that item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. And the final report for tonight is the appointment of councillor delegates to committees and organisations 2026. Councillors, do you have any questions? No. We have a revised officers' recommendation with all the names of councillors appointed to committees. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Jelly and Councillor Turi is the seconder. Councillor Jelly, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, please. I wonder if you can scroll up once we've finished typing on the screen there. Thank you. There are very many important external committees as well as internal ongoing committees that we represent Darebin City Council on as official delegates or appointees. And just to point out, obviously this is separate from the advisory committees that we've just voted to, have endorse the review that is coming to us early next year. And so you can see from here that, part of the work is, one of the surprises to me actually was just the number of committees that councillors sit on and represent the work of council. I guess in moving this motion, I would just like to thank all of the councillors for their work and their representation on these bodies throughout this year. I, for one, have learnt quite a lot. I've very much enjoyed being on the Metropolitan Transport Forum. I've enjoyed it so much that I've dipped my hand in, all of my hands really, into the executive and also nominated, was supported to become the cycling ambassador for Metro Transport Forum. So I've immensely enjoyed that. I hope everybody here has enjoyed the committees that they've been on. It's wonderful to have the voices of our council on local waterways management committees and local government associations. And what's new this year is that we are appointing one of our fellow councillors to the Australian Local Governance Association committee. So we look forward to hearing back from Councillor Boglis on her activities and what it's like being involved at that level. So I guess we should all say thank you to each other for the work you've done this year and all the best for, if you're changing any of these committees, for the work that you'll be doing in the next 12 months.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Councillor Turi as the seconder? No, you no speak. Oh, you reserve your right. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. I'm just going to give a plug to a couple of the committees that I'm on that have achieved some fantastic things this year. So Merry Creek Management Committee, their latest annual report is well worth looking at. They do amazing work across the community. We know obviously Darebin Creek Management Committee do similar work, but the work that both these organisations do to engage our community in caring for country, in understanding our waterways and helping protect them and protecting the land around it is literally invaluable. And so I'm really glad that we resolved some good ongoing relationships with both of those organisations through this year. And Merry Creek Management Committee have done some great little books recently for fundraising. Christmas is coming up. Maybe they'd be nice ideas for people. And they are about to go through an amazing rebrand. So look out for kind of fresh new look from them next year. They've just recently approved that. And I will also give a shout out to Friends of Bacau, who celebrated 25 years of activity in Darebin this year. And by extension, the broader Timor-Leste community celebrated 50 years of being in Victoria this year. So lots of big milestones. And again, support Friends of Bacau by buying your friends coffee for Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Turi, would you like to speak? No? Okay, then we'll put the item to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. So that concludes our reports for today, and there are no items to be tabled tonight. Item 11 is notices of motion. We have one notice of motion, Darebin's climate emergency. Councillor Villala, do you wish to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Villala. That's
Do I have a seconder?
moved. Yep. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Is there a seconder for Councillor Villala's motion?
No.
No seconder.
Well, that speed things up. That does
That's-
speed things
yeah,
up.
that motion lapses.
We're all in a hurry. No, that's cool. Thank you. No surprises there.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, we have urgent business, and there are no items of urgent business to consider. Item 13, consideration of reports considered confidential. There are no confidential reports to be considered. And the close of meeting. As there is no further business to consider this evening, I would like to declare the meeting closed at 8:50 p.m. Thank you, councillors, officers and community members. Wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a wonderful holiday season. Good night.